Welcome and thank you for joining our webinar today. We're going to be together for the next 45 minutes. So we appreciate you taking the time to join us to hear the discussion on the stark reality of nursing home care costs and what you can do to protect yourself before the need of long-term care. My name is Myra Medina, and I'm the estate planning coordinator for the Kopenbarger and Kopenbarger law firm. Just a few reminders that in the chat box, you will see a link to partner@kopenbarger.com. If at any time during this webinar you decide you want to take the next steps to protect your state, please click on the link and provide us with your first and last name plus your phone number so we can reach out to you today to talk to one of our certified specialists. So your presenter today is Robert Galliano, and he is one of the 9 attorneys within our firm. Robert has a master's in taxation. He's a certified specialist in probate, estate planning, and trust law by the State Bar of California. And he is also a VA certified specialist. Robert has helped hundreds of families over the years, protect them from nursing home poverty, probate, estate litigation, and much more. Robert takes the very complex and makes it simple and understandable. I'd like to welcome Robert Galliano.
Hello, everybody. I am going to be talking about how to avoid nursing home poverty before any of us face a catastrophic health crisis. Journey together from the same point of departure. And then I'm going to cover the ways that we can or could pay for long-term care. And then I'm going to go over some of the rules for qualifying for Medi-Cal. Then I'm going to give you a little bit of what your options are, and then the 3 steps that you can take now and how we can help you. The first thing that I want to cover is something that you already know, and that is that, look, we're living longer. If you look at the chart that's on the slide now, and let me take this other, there we go. If you look at the chart that's on your slides, you will see that statistically, the rate of increase longevity is increasing almost at a 45-degree angle. And in 2020, anybody who was born and is reaching the age of maturity can expect to live at least to be 80, 85 years of age. And I know that some of you, just like we do, we know people that are in their 90s and even driving, as a matter of fact, and they're doing quite well. So this first statistic is nothing new to you, is that we are living longer. Now, as we get older, our bodies are nothing more than a machine. And as we get older, the statistics are that 70% of the people over age 65 are going to be needing some form of long-term care. Illnesses like Alzheimer's, for example, is increasing by 46.1% as the major cause of death in the United States. And the average cost of care in a skilled nursing facility has increased and is expected to continually increase. When I first started practicing this type of law in 1988, the average cost of a skilled nursing care monthly cost was around $4,200 a month. And now, as you will know, I'm going to tell you later on, but it's around $10,000 a month. So it has increased tremendously. And if we go into a nursing home, the average length of stay, average meaning some will stay longer, some will stay less, but it's about 2.5 years to 3 years. So we're looking at the statistics that is, we're living longer, but as we age, we're going to wind up with some of the time on this earth with some problems with disability and maybe being subjected to some debilitating or very draconian illnesses. And that presents a problem, which is if we have to have long-term care, the cost of having somebody care for us, not even necessarily in the nursing home, but being cared for at home or an assisted living facility, those are tremendous expenses. Home health aid, for example, the monthly cost in this year is about $5,500 a month. And assisted living can run you about $5,000 a month. And a nursing home, semi-private room is a little bit under $10,000. And if you have a nursing home private room, it's almost $12,000. So, and I'll tell you from personal experience, I had to take care of my wife for about 6 months while I came to work. And I was faced with paying for home health aid to come in and take care of my wife, Diane. And so I know from personal experience how expensive that can be. And again, if you look at the bottom of your chart, you will see here that the average pay rate that California has identified is about $10,298 a month. That is the average that the state of California has identified for nursing care 1 month. Now, if we're living longer, if we are facing a debilitating illness, it could be Parkinson's disease, Alzheimer's, it can devastate us, and the expense of care is humongous. So how are we going to pay for it? How do we pay for it? Will you be able to pay for it? Did you get long-term care insurance? If you have long-term care insurance, have you looked at the policy to make sure that the daily benefits are going to be able to pay for what the nursing care exists today? Because a lot of people what have done is they did get long-term care insurance, but the fact that they got it many, many years ago, maybe the policy did not have an inflation rider, would mean that the daily pay from the long-term care insurers may not be enough to pay for what the daily care is today in a nursing home. So even though you may have long-term care insurance, it's important that you look at the policy and see what are the benefits that the insurance is paying for. Then, of course, we can have the government help us pay for it. And one thing that most of us do not want to do, and that is to have other family members pay for our care. You want to be independent as we get older. So how are you going to pay for long-term care? If you have to pay for it, you're going to use what? First of all, monthly income. Your Social Security income, maybe a pension income, money that you're getting from your investments, your savings. You have a house. A lot of times people think that they have to sell your home in order to pay for these benefits. Burden on your family. We talked about this, having another member pay for your care. Most of us don't want that. Or maybe relying on the government to help us pay for long-term care. Or the other alternative is to implement a legal plan that can allow you to have the government help you pay for long-term care and at the same time be able to protect your home and savings. So when we review the ways that we can pay for long-term care, we are basically facing with either you pay for it yourself, or you have long-term care insurance, or you have to have the government help you pay for the care. Now, I want you to grab a piece of paper and a pencil because we're going to do a little bit of an exercise, and I think that the result of this exercise is going to shock you. So grab a pen, get a piece of paper, and let's go through a small exercise. The exercise that I want to conduct with you is the following. I want all of you to think through mentally, what is your monthly income? I want you to include the sources, Social Security, pension, benefits from retirement accounts, and so forth. So come up with a number, monthly income. I, for example, on this chart, I took an average monthly income of $6,000 a month. That's the gross amount. Now you have that number. This is your specific number. From that number, what I want you to do is I want you to subtract your expenses, your monthly expenses, bills, expenses, maybe you have a mortgage, lighting, automobile, gasoline, insurance, and so forth. And I want you to come up with a number. In this example, I have identified $5,000 as the monthly bills and expenses. And therefore, I'm going to subtract my expenses from my monthly income to come up with a disposable income. How much money do I have left every month? In this example, $1,000. So how much did you come up with? What do you have as disposable income? Keep that number in mind. Now, in this example, the disposable income is $1,000, but the average cost of long-term care in California is it's actually $10,298, but I chose $10,000 for easy math. So we're going to say that the average cost per month in California is $10,000. So if I have $1,000 of disposable income, but the nursing home care per month is $10,000, what's my monthly shortfall? What am I lacking? In my example, I'm going to be lacking $9,000. So what is your monthly shortfall? Now take your monthly shortfall. In this example, I had $9,000. Let's find out what the annual shortfall is. So take your monthly shortfall, all of you, multiply that by 12. In this example, I came up with $108,000 a year. And if I take a reasonable rate of return on investments of 4%, if I divide the annual shortfall of $108,000 by 0.04, that's going to give me the amount of money that I need to have in order to produce the shortfall. In this example, that amount is almost $3 million. What did you come up with? What is your shortfall? Are you prepared then to pay for it yourself? This chart here shows the greatest concerns the seniors have. And the most, I'll call it alarming concern among seniors is becoming ill. Now you know why. If we become ill, we become a burden on our family. We may become ill because of losing our memory. Becoming a burden is another big concern. So now you understand why becoming ill is a major concern among seniors in the United States, because we are possibly then faced with a tremendous expense that we may or may not be able to afford. All right, so what have I covered so far? Living longer. We're a machine. The possibility of becoming disabled or having some major illness occur at the end of our life, that can happen. And ways that you can pay for a long-term care, long-term involvement in a nursing home. I've identified the ways. You do it, long-term care insurance, or have the government help to pay. We looked at the charts to see how you could pay for it, and the majority of us, we will not be able to afford to pay for it ourselves. So here's another thing that people, well, when we talk about this, people tell me, he says, well, I have Medicare. I don't need any more long-term care planning. I don't need I don't want people telling me that I need Medi-Cal. So let's look at this thing. I want you to follow me with compare Medicare with Medi-Cal. Now, Medi-Cal is California's version of Medicaid. Medicaid is the term that is applied throughout the United States, but we here in California, we have our own laws called Medi-Cal. So Medicare, as you know, when generally we reach the age of 65, we wind up with the insurance program called Medicare. Medicare is an insurance program that is different than Medi-Cal. There's two insurance programs, Medicare, Medi-Cal. They're different. Medicare, generally when we reach 65, we have Medicare. It pays for hospitalization, doctor visits, medical bills, prescriptions. But when we look at what Medicare covers with reference to long-term care, it is limited. Medicare only covers skilled care, not custodial care. And the requirements are very strict. They only provide rehabilitative short-term care. And from there, after 3 days of rehabilitative care, you have to go into a nursing home. And once you're not needing skilled care, you will then not be covered by Medicare for long-term care, because Medicare is limited to paying for 100 days in a skilled facility. The first 20 days are covered 100%. The other 80 days, there's a copay of $176 per day. Now, the majority of the copay, if you have supplemental insurance, will offset the majority of that copay expense. So again, Medicare, different insurance program than Medi-Cal, very limited coverage for long-term care, very limited. So again, Medi-Cal. All right. Like I said before, Medi-Cal is California's version of Medicaid. So what is it? Well, it's a federal and state insurance program that has been implementing the coverage for medical assistance to low-income individuals, including those who are 65 years or older, disabled, or blind. It is the largest source of funding for medical and health-related services with low income. The Medi-Cal world has very strict income and asset rules, and I'm going to cover those for you. First of all, when we meet with prospects or we hear people talking about qualifying for Medi-Cal, the first thing that comes to mind, if I use the term Medi-Cal and I say, let's talk about Medi-Cal, the first thing that people think, and there's a knee-jerk reaction saying, whoa, wait a minute, I don't want to talk about Medi-Cal because if I qualify for Medi-Cal in the state of California, they're going to take away my home. I can't qualify for Medi-Cal because I have to become impoverished in order to qualify. And also I hear that you have to give away everything and they wait 5 years to qualify. Why would I want that? And also I hear that lawyers say that protecting yourself and family is extremely difficult. Well, guess what? None of these things are true. 7 out of 10 people do not even think about long-term care planning because they think that they will never need long-term care. Have you heard of procrastination? It's not going to happen to me. It's going to happen to the other guy, right? But statistically, 70%, 7 out of 10, we're going to be needing some form of long-term care if you're over 65. Now, long-term care does not necessarily mean being in a nursing home. It can be in home care also, okay? So I want you to be sure that you understand that the statistics are some form of long-term care. I'm going to give you the very basic Medi-Cal facts because these are facts that people hear about all the time. And these are the basic facts here in California for a married couple that is trying to qualify for Medi-Cal. So if you look at the rules, you're going to read and see that for a single individual, they can have assets up to $2,000. This is the number that everybody has in their head. Oh, I can only have $2,000. If you're married, there are spousal protection laws that basically say, wait a minute, if one of us goes into a nursing home and my spouse is left at home, we have to have some sort of spousal protection for her. And therefore, when you're married, the law also permits the community spouse, the spouse that stays at home, to keep $128,000, $640 almost $129,000 of assets, in addition to a list of assets that are called exempt. In addition to a list of assets that are called exempt. So assets that are exempt that can be kept are generally the home, your vehicle, personal belongings. There's a whole list of assets, things that you can keep that are exempt, not counted for Medi-Cal eligibility. In addition to that, you can keep, if you're married, the will spouse can keep up to almost $129,000 of assets that are not exempt. California has adopted the maximum amount of money, which is considered to be minimum in California, that the spouse can keep. In other words, the spouse can keep a minimum monthly amount of $3,216 a month of income. She can keep more, but this is the minimum required allowance for a community spouse, the will spouse at home. So these are spousal protection elements that exist in the Medi-Cal rules. But for Medi-Cal, you have to meet financial requirements and medical requirements. And California has also identified, I gave you this number before, the average private pay rate in California. This is what California says. 1 month in a California nursing home is going to cost $10,298. So let me talk about the gifting rule at this point. California says the following. I'm going to round down to $10,298 to $10,000. Easy math, right? It's too hard to be thinking, how do we divide $10,298? So I'm going to round it down to $10,000. California says if you give away $10,000, you're going to be disqualified from applying for Medi-Cal for 1 month. Why? Because you could have used the $10,000 that you give away to pay for 1 month in a nursing home. So you're disqualified from applying. What if you give away 100,000? Well, divide 100,000 by 10,000, 10 months. So you're not eligible for applying for Medi-Cal for 10 months. So gifting carries with it penalties. How the penalties are derived are the amount of the gift divided by the average pay rate. In this example, the $10,000. Later on, I'm going to show you how we use that under the current laws to our advantage. Okay, so question. If I am laying out these rules, you can keep $2,000, you can only have $129,000. How the question that comes up is, wait a minute, how can I apply for governmental benefits? How can I apply for governmental benefits and how can I still protect my assets and my income if my assets are more than that? How do I do it? I don't understand what you said. You gave me the requirements that are so strict and now, but I have more than that. How do I do it? How do I protect my house, my home? I have rental property. How do I protect that? I have savings. We have savings. We have investments. We have IRAs. Wait a minute here. I want to be able to protect all these things. I want to know how to do it. Okay, let's talk about it. First of all, with the passing of the Obamacare, the medical programs were expanded, and so there are several Medi-Cal programs that are not the Medi-Cal for nursing home long-term care. Qualifying for Medi-Cal for nursing home long-term care is one aspect of Medi-Cal. That's what I'm going to talk about today. All right, two types of planning. What are they? One, preventative planning. What does that mean? Listen, if you are alive and well, who is going to make all of the decisions for you, for your family, for your spouse? You are. Doesn't it make sense that if you're capable of making the decision for yourself and your spouse, that you should be doing preventative planning now before an emergency exists and you're not able to make the decisions for yourself? Because if you're alive but not well, you're not going to be able to make the decisions for yourself. Other individuals will be making them for you, and you may be in a crisis planning situation, meaning that you are in an emergency situation and you will not be able to have all the options that were available when you were doing preventative planning. You may have broken a hip, you may have been in an auto accident, you may have had an aneurysm, and you're on your way to a nursing home, and you're faced with having to pay for the nursing care, and then what? Preventative planning allows you to have choices. Under California law, you can make financial arrangements to preserve your assets so they can supplement your long-term care. Let me repeat that. Preventative planning you do ahead of a crisis situation because you're going to have more choices to plan. I keep moving the little box here on the right-hand side where the picture is because it's covering up some of the words on the slide. So this slide here is to kind of go over, in a way, the complexity of the Medi-Cal laws. What I want you to really try to understand is that there's a whole group of laws, a whole different group of laws that are Medi-Cal laws. And those Medi-Cal laws are controlled by what we call the big law. What's the big law? Federal law. What's the little law? California state law. So we at Copenhagen, we take the little law and apply it to the big law so we can get the best results for you, the client. So some of the terms that are here, for example, just like every other profession, like for example, some of you who are in the military or retired military, you know all the alphabet acronyms that exist in the military, right? Well, likewise, when you get into the Medi-Cal world, there's the ISCS, ill spouse, community spouse, MAMR, Medi-Cal applicant, Medi-Cal recipient. This is a mouthful. MINMA, minimum monthly minimum need allowance, the income that a spouse can keep. CSRA, community spouse resource allowance. Snapshot date, look back period, spend down, compensated transfer, uncompensated transfer, penalty period. I'm going to move the little chart back up. Monthly divisor. These are all elements of the Medi-Cal laws, and then there are legal concepts that need to be applied. Income laws, excess assets spend down, monthly deficit surplus, minimum months to qualify, assets at risk and protection. So we at Copenhagen, we understand all the elements, we understand the laws, and we put them all together so that we can come up with a plan so that we can take advantage of the planning tools that we have at our disposal, which is knowing how to spend down, for example, spending down from non-exempt assets to exempt assets so that they're not counted, converting perhaps assets that are not exempt into exempt assets, gifting plans. In a way, in California, we have a way of accelerating the gifting such that we can shorten even the 30 months look back rule that exists in California down to months. We can actually qualify some families for Medi-Cal in a matter of a few months. How do we do that? Because we understand the gifting plans, we understand the rules. We use qualified transfers, income allocations, and we also use another tool, which is one of our favorites, and it works fantastic, which is the irrevocable grantor trust. What is the irrevocable grantor trust? I am going to simplify the concept. Look at the picture. If you have real estate, if you have stocks and bonds, if you have bank accounts, some of these assets may be exempt, some of them may not be exempt. A lot of these assets that you have, you need to protect them. So follow this concept. If these assets are under your control, even though they are in your revocable trust, they're under your control, they may be counted so that you may not be eligible if you have a lot of these assets that are above and beyond the exempt assets you can keep. So what is a way then to protect the assets? We simply transfer the ownership of these assets into an irrevocable trust. So now you take the assets that you want to protect and you place them into an irrevocable trust. Now what happens is that you have removed them from your control, sort of, to an irrevocable trust, and you can protect them. When I use the word irrevocable, everybody says, well, wait a minute, irrevocable, doesn't that mean you can't change it? Well, guess what? This type of trust is a special kind of trust that we devise, that we know what the rules are, that we implement on a regular basis. You can be your own trustee. You can be the trustee, co-trustee, you can control the assets. You can appoint, for example, a disability panel. That means that whomever is going to be able to determine if you're competent or not competent. You can change your beneficiaries. You can identify family members, charities to be beneficiaries. Again, you can change co-trustees, successor trustees. So there is control that you still have, and also you'll be able to get some of the income. So it's not a type of trust where you lose everything as far as control is concerned. It's a way of removing the assets you want to control into the irrevocable trust. So basically then they're out of your estate, not counted for Medi-Cal, and then you can apply and qualify. What are the benefits? Well, you can live in your own home. Your primary residence is immediately protected. State can't take it away from you. Savings can be protected. You can leave more to the family, not the state. Other real property, we can use the assessed value versus the fair market value to protect them. Look-back rule is not 5 years, it's currently 30 months, not 60 months. The daily transfers, California has another technique called stack gifting. We can transfer gifting in a shorter period of time in a proper way to reduce the look-back period or the period of ineligibility as short as 4, 5, 6 months to qualify. Purpose of planning. Okay. Is this something that you should be thinking about? Are you getting older? Is there maybe a gene in your family that may make you think that you might be subjected to some debilitating illness. In my family, it's prostate cancer. Do I worry about that? Of course I do. My mother died of stomach cancer. I worry about that all the time. But the purpose of planning is to qualify for Medi-Cal. It does not mean you have to go into a nursing home tomorrow. It's protecting your assets. It's preserving assets for your healthy spouse, spousal protection. If I have to go into a nursing home, I want my wife to be protected. So I want to make sure that if I go into a nursing home, I have enough money to protect my wife. Provide inheritance to your children. Leaving a legacy. And protection against estate recovery. What am I talking about there? State of California has laws in the books. It is mandated by the federal government that California has to go back and recover for any money that they have expended upon you for Medi-Cal benefits. While you're alive, the state of California has given you a loan. Basically, that's what it amounts to. Because at the time of your death, they're going to come back and try to file a claim or a lien against the property. Unless we have done the other part of planning, which is protect you from estate recovery. We do both. Qualifying for Medi-Cal, protection against estate recovery. I have a proposition for you. Look, we understand the laws. We can review, analyze, and apply the laws to your specific situation. Your situation is different than your situation and different than your situation. So everybody has a different situation. So let us review and analyze what the laws are, and let us provide you with an evaluation. What are the assets that could be protected? When you could possibly be eligible for Medi-Cal? We have a tool at the office where we get the asset information worksheet. We get together with you, and we can tell you where you stand. Wouldn't you like to know that? Is this something that you're interested in knowing? You want the bad news? We are currently under laws that are different than all the other 49 states. We are operating under 1988 laws, not 88, 1998 laws. Actually, it is 1988. That's how far back the OBRA Act, that was 93. The Medicare Catastrophic Care Act, 1988. Then in 1993, the Medicare Catastrophic Act was, I'll call it, modified by the other act called OBRA, 93. These are the laws that we're operating under in California. But in 2005, the federal government passed another act under the Deficit Reduction Act called a DRA. They passed a bunch of laws that basically truncated, minimized, eliminated a lot of the planning opportunities that we currently have. So in 2005, the federal government passed a directive to all states to be under the DRA rules. California in 2008 passed a law that it has not been implemented. California versus 49 other states. We are operating under 1988-93 rules. We're not under the 2005 DRA rules. These rules are different than other states. Our primary residence now can be protected of any value. Other real estate, like I said earlier, can be protected, assessed value versus fair market value. Our look back period is not 5 years like it is in other states, it's only 30 months. There are a lot of changes that other states are under that do not have the same opportunity that we have in California to qualify for Medi-Cal. So what I'm trying to say is that the opportunity exists now in California because we have not implemented the DRA rules, even though we passed the law in 2008, it has not been implemented. That's 12 years ago. The federal government keeps wanting California to implement these rules because they want to make it more difficult to qualify for Medi-Cal. So every year we think that the rules are going to be passed and we're going to be under the DRA rules. And so what we want to tell you is that there's an opportunity now because the planning options are more in your favor than they will be if we're under the DRA rules. 3 steps for success. You have to have a foundational estate plan with the authority to be able to do Medi-Cal planning if you become incapacitated. Step 2, we want you to establish healthcare directives and durable powers of attorney and HIPAAs. And step 3, we want you to evaluate your options. We want you to find out where you stand and initiate a plan if that is what is in your best interest. I'm going to conclude with a story. This is Sarah's story. This is a story of a family that contacted Lloyd Koppenbarger, our founding partner, and Jackie Shuchuk, our senior paralegal in Medi-Cal. They're the ones that get the credit for preparing this estate plan for Sarah. But what happened is that Sarah, she was 94 years old and she had been in a nursing home for 6 years. So she was already in a nursing home for 6 years, and her family was introduced to the Koppenbarger firm by another client of ours. And they told Sarah's family to come in and talk to us because at the time of the meeting, since Sarah had been in a nursing home for 6 years, and it was costing them almost $100,000 a year, they had already spent $600,000 of Sarah's money keeping her in a nursing home. And so the family was faced with, how do we keep Sarah in the nursing home? Does that mean we have to sell our home? We have to sell her the property that had been in the family for so many years? They didn't want to sell the property. They didn't want to divest themselves of a piece of property that had been in the family for years. They didn't want to pay the capital gains tax that was going to amount to almost $100,000. So the family was at a loss. They were spending $100,000 a year. They had already spent $600,000. They were devastated, not knowing where to turn. So they came in to see Lloyd and Jackie. And they wanted to find out, is there a way that we can protect our property? Is there a way that we could save our property from being sold? And the resounding answer was, yes, of course. And without going into any kind of a detail, within about 2 months, the firm was able to qualify Sarah for Medi-Cal, and the state of California then started to pay for her care, and the family was able to save the property, and the family was able then to know that they weren't going to wind up being devastated by the problems that Sarah had incurred. So Sarah, we had saved in a 2-year period over $200,000 simply because we implemented a long-term care plan for Sarah. This is what we do every day. This is what we are trained to do. I asked a lot of you, what are the questions that you would like to have answered? And these are some of the most common questions. So what I would like to do is I would like to answer some of them. And I see that I'm running about 45 minutes, so I will make this brief. First question, can we remain in our home? You can answer that. Of course you can. Can we qualify both a husband and wife? Yes, we can. When should we do this type of planning? Well, the laws are going to be changing, and if you think there's a possibility that you may be faced with one of these disastrous illnesses, now is the time to start doing the planning, preventative planning. What can California recover from us? If you don't do the proper planning, they can recover everything that they spent money, all the money that they spend on you, they can try to recover. But you can avoid state recovery with the proper planning. Good question is the next one. Well, what's going to happen if the law changes? Any changes that come down the pike are going to be proactive, not retroactive. Last question. When do I ask for more help? Now, we're here to help you answer. We are here to answer your questions. I need to tell you that we probably need to review your basic estate plan to make sure you have the proper language. We can certainly discuss nursing home care. I'm going to move this little black box so you can see what I'm reading. And we can also review what problems you may have with Medi-Cal with respect to your specific situation. And we can certainly discuss with you the long-term care trust planning that we were able to accomplish. The next step that I want you to do is I want you to schedule your appointment. If you found this webinar to be instructive, then refer us to those who may need us and share your experience. And I think there's a form that you can write down your client testimonial. Give me a good grade. Here's Myra.
Thank you so much, Robert. Well, the Kopenbarger and Kopenbarger law firm has been in business for over 40 years. We have 9 attorneys and dozens of support staff that are highly qualified and happy to serve you at any time. We have offices all over the state of California and can meet with you in person or through virtual means such as Zoom. Again, we would like to thank you for attending our presentation and truly hope you've received valuable information about planning ahead for long-term care. Remember, you've worked hard your entire life to build what you've got. And whether that's a little or a lot to you, it's worth protecting to us. If you would like to schedule your free consultation with one of our attorneys today, please click on the link in the chat box. Once again, it's partner@kopenbarger.com and give us your name and phone number and we will reach out to you shortly. If we didn't get a chance to answer your questions today, we will most certainly answer it during your complimentary consultation. Our marketing team will be reaching out and sending a copy of this presentation to you later this afternoon. And we encourage you to share the information with your family and friends who could benefit from this. Lastly, we want you to know that we are here to help you through all of life's changes, whether you need to establish an estate plan for the first time or review and update an existing plan. We are here to help you. Thank you so much for watching. Take care.